Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending today's webinar. It's titled 10,000 Days of Gratitude, a Journey of Hope, Happiness, and Healing. And I want to thank Dr. Arsenault for inviting me to speak to you today about my journey of gratitude. I also want to thank you for attending with an open heart today. Before we begin, I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation, who have been the custodians of this land from time immemorial. Wherever you're currently sitting, I invite you to take a moment to appreciate the land you're on and the indigenous people who steward it. So to begin, I'll start with a little bit about me. If you haven't met me, I'm a patient in the clinic, and I've been just trying to move my Zoom so that it's not in the way of what I'm presenting on the screen. I've been practicing and writing about gratitude for 4,023 days as of today, and that's just over 11 years. If you looked at the introduction about me, you'll know that I'm a CPA, so I'm one of those kind of type A personalities, but I'm also a yoga teacher and an interfaith minister. And the reason I mention that is because, well, my approach to gratitude, and you'll see it in the way that my gratitude practice evolved, was from a spiritual perspective. That was how I had always known gratitude in the past. I also mention it because the seminary where I became an interfaith minister was actually co-founded or descended from an organization that was co-founded by Brother David Steindl-Rast. And Brother David Steindl-Rast is a master teacher of gratitude. So I had a good teacher. I also mention it because while gratitude may have been seen as a virtue in the past, and it may have arisen in just about every faith tradition in the world, it's important to know that you don't have to have a faith tradition. You don't have to be a believer of anything in order to practice gratitude. So a little bit more about me. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, I call it ME, in 2013. I was living in London. And I was fortunate to become involved in a hospital group that treated ME at the time. Then in 2023, I also had COVID, and I'm in the clinic now because that, of course, became long COVID, a setback of my chronic fatigue syndrome. I was, however, in remission from 2015 all the way to 2023. The London clinic, back in 2014, 2013, around that time, the main practice for treating chronic fatigue syndrome was aggressive rest and pacing. And I think that that had a lot to do with my remission. But I wanted to say that psychology wasn't really a part of the program, and neuroplasticity was nowhere to be seen. So my gratitude practice had nothing to do with my treatment for chronic fatigue syndrome at the time. And remission came as a complete surprise to me. So about my journey, I started gratitude practice as a Facebook challenge from a friend of mine. It was to do a journal of 3 things for which I'm grateful for 7 days. And I immediately started to feel pretty good about life because I was focusing on the positive. So on day 8, I decided to add joy, and I decided to continue to do gratitude and joy for 40 days. I hit a milestone at 40 days, and I started doing a regular reflections, observations of what was happening and what was arising in me as a result of my gratitude practice. You might say it was from the observing ego. And I'm really grateful that I did it, because now looking back, I can speak to the entire process as it happened. On day 90, that's 3 months into the practice, I noticed that my symptoms had really greatly reduced. I was experiencing optimism, and I had real hope for the future. Not just that I would get well, but hope for my life in general. I had a sense of connectedness with others, and even a sense of interconnectedness. And I was very keen to share this practice with my chronic fatigue syndrome hospital group, and I did. Don't know if you're seeing me over top of the slide. What I will say is that these slides, you don't have to take notes. There's a document that has everything that's important. There'll be lots of studies in it, so you don't have to take any notes. You'll be provided with the document. If you haven't had it already, then just ask Bruno for it. There's this whole journey is in a document with all of the studies that you might be interested in. And there's also a couple of other documents that you might find useful. So after the 3 months, I decided that I wanted to give back or pay it forward. And so on day 97, 3 months and 1 week, I added service as a daily practice. But I was struggling because I wasn't working. I wasn't quite sure how I could be of service to people. And so eventually I decided to come back and circle around to that experience of connectedness that I had felt. And I added on day 150, or 5 months into the practice, a daily cultivation of oneness. So at 6 months, my symptoms had completely faded, except for if I traveled and got jet lagged or I pushed myself too much. And it's worth saying that by 6 months, I was traveling extensively throughout Europe and overseas. And so I was beginning to be more active than I had been for a very long time. But they had, my symptoms had nearly faded completely. I had still had a bit of brain fog, and every now and then I would have a setback. I decided I wanted to reach 365 days, but I stopped creating milestones publicly because I wanted to do it for my own sense of achievement. And already at 6 months in, I decided that I wanted to write a book and share this with people who had chronic illness. At that point, I also started doing a deeper practice rather than a list of things every day and trying to describe why that was important. I started writing longer gratitude posts. I started writing on a blog, and I started doing gratitude letters, which we'll talk about in a bit. So on day 365, I had a complete remission of symptoms. It had happened a little bit before that, but I can say that within the year I had a complete remission. And I decided that I wanted to make the commitment to continue this beyond the 365 days. I had a great party in London, and it was a fantastic celebration. And based on Malcolm Gladwell's idea that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to master something, I decided that I was going to practice gratitude for 10,000 days. And that's why it's 10,000 days of gratitude. Just so you know, 10,000 days is about 27 and a half years. I also knew that I'd be returning to work, so I knew that a daily gratitude journal was probably not sustainable. And so I started experimenting with weekly and maybe monthly personal essays on gratitude. And I only started to do reflections on milestones. On day 1000, even though it had been apparent by the first year that this practice was helping me to achieve greater meaning in my life and a sense of purpose. On day 1000, I wrote about purpose and meaning, and I started to incorporate other emotions and experiences that arise from the long-term practice of gratitude, like love, and well, we'll see some of the others. And what I would say is that there have been periods where I haven't written publicly about my gratitude practice. And specifically, fairly recently, when my sister passed away a couple of years ago, I stopped writing publicly. And I came back to it a little bit, and then my father passed away. So I decided to make it much more of a personal practice. And we'll see that actually that deepens our sense of gratitude to not be public with it all the time. Throughout the 11 years, however, I have returned to daily practice from time to time when I kind of need I don't know, a booster shot, as you'd say. And this year I had a milestone birthday back in May, and I decided that I was going to publicly post gratitude journals once again. Now, I have in that time done daily gratitude journals. I've done once a week gratitude journal, and I've done it in various lengths of time, experimenting with what seems to work for me. So, what emerged organically from that first year of my gratitude practice is this wheel here of gratitude, cultivating joy, cultivating a sense of oneness, and finding ways to be of service. You might find on some of my writings that I'll shorten it as GJOS, gratitude, joy, oneness, and service. This emerged because it was important to me. It was what was coming up for me. I found a connection between gratitude and my sense of joy. I found a connection between gratitude and the way I felt connected and interconnected with all people and beings. And I felt that gratitude inspired me to give back and pay it forward. So that was something that was personal to me. It may not be for everybody that practices gratitude, but I will say that it is consistent with studies of gratitude. While I was practicing gratitude, I didn't read anything on gratitude, and this just arose organically. So it's kind of interesting to see that those who study gratitude found the same thing. We all kind of have an idea of what gratitude is, but I thought it might be useful to have a definition of it. And this definition comes from Robert Emmons, who is really the preeminent scientific scholar on gratitude. And you can read the definition on the screen yourself, it's in your notes. It is gratitude is the recognition that one has received a benefit that is due to the actions of another, that the benefactor behaved intentionally, and that the benefit was not necessarily earned. There's a few things I'd say about this. There's really 5 points that are important here. It's the recognition of a benefit that comes through the actions of another. It was intentional. And I'll change the wording to say it wasn't something that we set in motion for ourselves. So, what is joy? We all experience joy and we kind of have an idea of it. I like to think of it as either delight or something a little calmer as contentment. In pain management, there's the idea of uplift. In polyvagal theory and on social media, you might have heard the phrase glimmers, those kind of safe, sort of content moments throughout the day. Psychologists call it positive affect, or what we would normally call happiness. What it isn't, however, is that kind of excitement and stimulation. That isn't what we're looking for here. Now, Brother David Steindl-Rast says that the joy that doesn't depend on what happens is the joy that springs from gratefulness. He's also famously known for saying in his TED Talk that it isn't happiness that makes people grateful, it's gratitude that makes people happy. So, to me, there was definitely a connection between gratitude and joy in that first week. And it's also borne out in this literature and in the studies on gratitude. So Emmons and McCullough found that gratitude led to positive affect and optimism. McCullough found that it was, important in reducing depression and anxiety. And there is a positivity bias in memory, according to Watkins, for those who practice gratitude. It's something kind of interesting there is that it's not only that those who practice gratitude tend to have more positive memories than negative ones, but their intrusive thoughts also tend to be positive. So, what I also found in this relationship was that it was reciprocal between gratitude and joy. Because where I couldn't think of anything that day that I could be grateful for, I would look back on those moments of joy, those moments of happiness, the time I laughed, or I had just that moment of contentment. And that became the source of my gratitude for that day. So we'll move around the wheel to the next one, which is oneness. And I know that's a really cumbersome term. It was chosen by me because it comes from my spiritual tradition. Um, it might be more useful to think of it as connection. And in terms of connection, we can think of it as connection to others, to nature or our animals. We can feel a connection with oneself through meditation. Connection can be achieved through appreciation of beauty and art, music. It can be achieved through a sense of wonder and awe. And it can be a connection with something that is bigger and greater than oneself. For me, I think of it not only as connection, but also interconnection. And that stems from the gratefulness of looking at, I'll just give you an example. If you are grateful today that you have an apple for lunch, looking at the interconnectedness of everything, we can look back at all the steps in that supply chain that brought the apple to your table today. So it was the farmer who decided to plant the apple trees, the fruit pickers who picked them, the people who drove it to the processing plant, the processors, and those who drove it to the supermarket, and the supermarket where you went and or somebody else went and shopped for you and delivered it to you. There's a whole interconnection of chains of events that bring the good things into our lives. And that's something that Robert Emmons says is really an effect of gratitude, is that you start to realize that nobody gets where they are in life or where they are today without the benefit of everybody else who has helped them get there. We don't just stand alone. We're not really what, North Americans might choose to think of as self-made people. We depend on other people all the time. So it's the connection and the interconnection. And as you can see from the slide, there is research that shows that happiness leads to better social relationships. These are just a couple. There's a ton of research out there that will show you that happiness leads to better social relationships. And throughout the entire history of the World Happiness Report, I believe, it's been shown that good social relationships are a predictor of happiness. Gratitude and oneness are related to one another, in that gratitude leads to social connection, and one of the very first studies on gratitude showed that. And also, gratitude via the experience of awe can lead us to an experience of connection with nature. And I'm sure those who live in British Columbia are pretty well aware of how awesome our nature is out there. So, and that was my experience as well, is that gratitude led me to connection. Of course, as I mentioned before, that oneness, that sense of oneness, was really important for service. So, what is service? Well, again, that's another cumbersome term, and it comes from my yoga tradition. It can be as simple as doing thanks. There is a woman named Elizabeth Bartlett who had, she's a professor, not in this realm of gratitude research, but she had a heart transplant surgery. And she was so grateful to have survived that surgery and to have a second chance at life that she felt that words were not enough, that words of thanks were not enough. And it really inspired her to want to do thanks. And that's why we can consider it doing thanks. It can be reciprocity, you know, giving back. It can be paying it forward to people that, you know, couldn't do anything for us, but we feel compelled to help them. It can be as large as the concept of altruism or as small as acts of kindness. What really matters is that there's some element of sacrifice for the benefit of someone else. And it can be small. There are things like metta meditation, and it's also known as loving kindness meditation. That's not a small thing. It's a very powerful, profound meditation, but it can be done anywhere. It can be done in bed, it can be done anywhere. It doesn't require a significant amount of effort to undertake the metta meditation. So that's just one example. Smiling at a stranger is another. Comments on social media that are positive is another example. So, how did service and oneness connect, and how did gratitude and oneness connect in the social science research? Well, there's findings that empathetic connection leads to altruism, and also that altruism strengthens our social connection by compassion. Those who felt compassion, which is defined as the desire to help, to uh, to experience someone's pain and desire to help them, um, that led to stronger social bonds with those that were helped. Also, when you think about it, gratitude arises from an act of service. Somebody does something for us for which we're grateful. So they do for us, then we feel grateful and we want to engage in an act of service ourselves. So Elizabeth Bartlett calls this the endless waterfall of giving and receiving. So it's a real virtuous circle between gratitude and service. And I experienced that myself. Now, Emmons and McCullough very early on found that gratitude led to helping behavior, and that the helping behavior, according to Bartlett and DiStano, was there even if it came at a cost and the motivation was implicit. They did an interesting study where they put a glitch in a computer and people were entering and doing this survey, and they got almost to the end and it seemed like it was going to break down, and someone came and helped them. Those who felt grateful were more likely to do this survey again than those who didn't have someone help them and the gratitude condition. So that's the circle: gratitude, joy, oneness, and service. It's not necessarily that we go around in that circle in that order, but that's how I experienced it. And they all interrelate with one another. Something results from that, and it did for me when I practiced gratitude for a long period of time, even before 365 days. I started to feel that gratitude was helping me to refine my values, to know what mattered. It gave me a sense of perspective on my life. Um, it helped me transcend myself by looking beyond myself and wanting to help others. It improved my relationships. And by reflecting on my life, I was able to create a more heroic narrative of my life, despite whatever challenges I was experiencing with chronic fatigue. So essentially, what resulted from my long term practice of gratitude was a sense of purpose and meaning. And there are studies, lots of studies out there that show that gratitude increases our self-worth, and giving back gives us a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning. And post-traumatic growth studies will show that um, gratitude can help us to reinterpret our experience, our memory, and create post-traumatic growth. It kind of works both ways, that we can experience post-traumatic growth, and the post-traumatic growth itself can make us also feel more grateful and appreciate life itself. I had been practicing yoga and meditation for 15 years when I started my gratitude practice. So I kind of missed a trick in what was important for gratitude practice. And people started to say to me, "Oh, I don't know how you can always be grateful. I really struggle." And I realized that what really has to precede a gratitude practice is mindfulness. We have to be able to be present in the current moment in order to observe those things that are good in our lives and to appreciate them. And the brother David Steindl-Rast, we'll get into his methodology in a little bit. He's a real practitioner of gratitude based on mindfulness. Other mindfulness practitioners are John Kabat-Zinn and Jack Kornfield. What they found was that mindfulness in the studies led to gratitude as an enduring state. It wasn't just a momentary feeling, but more practice of mindfulness led to an enduring state of gratitude. And those who practice gratitude were more easily able to get into a present moment awareness. So mindfulness and gratitude were shown to be really mutually reinforcing of one another. Now, as I said, found joy, oneness, and service to be the most important things to make a daily effort to cultivate. However, there were a lot of other feelings and experiences that arose. And so, as I said, this is my experience. If you decide to take up a gratitude practice, as you practice gratitude, you may find there's other things that are more relevant to you, more salient in your life. And some of those things that I experienced and also show up in the literature are feelings of hope, feelings of empathy, compassion, love. Oh boy, when I first started practicing gratitude, I felt like I was falling in love. I didn't know who I was falling in love with, but for months I was falling in love, and I realized I was falling in love with life. And so there's also an increased sense of self-worth and a sense of awe that can arise from practicing gratitude. Now I know I said that I had a complete remission of symptoms. So I'm sure you're interested in what the physical benefits of gratitude are. And I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional in any way. So I have listed here some of the benefits that are arising out of practicing gratitude and some studies, and you'll find it in your notes. You can go and read them. I've listed lots of studies, and I'm sure that if you're interested in it, you'll follow up on them. But what I will say that I experienced was improved sleep, less brain fog. I had reduced inflammation, my aches and pains reduced, and I had a stronger immune system. I didn't get sick quite nearly as often. That was in my first year of gratitude. We didn't look at blood pressure or HRV, heart rate variability. There was no Fitbit, or there was no visible app at the time, or not that I was aware of. So I didn't look at that. But I will tell you that in the last 3 months, yes, I've been practicing for 3 months now since my birthday. I have been told by my cardiologist this week I don't have to come back anymore. My blood pressure is textbook. And my heart rate variability is the one that I would like to see rise, but it hasn't yet. So we'll see. Now, that's my experience. I don't know what would happen to anybody else who's practicing gratitude, but there is scientific research that at least backs up my experience of the physical benefits. Now, the next slide is full of text, so please don't try to read it. I just created it to show you that there are studies on this. There are studies on the physical benefits of joy, of oneness, and of service. And you'll see them on the left. Please don't try to read them, they're in your notes. But what's really important is over in the pink square. The physical benefits of joy, oneness, and service mirror those of gratitude. And that's better sleep, immune system strength, better cardiovascular health, reduced inflammation, and decreased that doesn't look like it's spelled right, but symptom burden. So there you go. And if you're interested, they're all in your notes, and I invite you to go and delve into them. Well, we're about halfway through our slides, and we're more than halfway through our time. So I think that it would be a good time, if you're willing, to join me in a gratitude meditation. If you're not willing, you can take this as an opportunity to have a comfort break. But what we're going to do today is a body scan. And in a body scan, normally I'll ask you to tense up your muscles and release. And that helps you to relax those muscles. But I know that everybody's physical condition is different, and that may not be appropriate for you. So if you choose to, you can tense and release at the time we're going through the body parts. But what I'm gonna do is suggest a lower impact version of this, and we're going to wiggle. We're just gonna wiggle the body parts. If that's not comfortable, you can touch the body parts. And if that's not comfortable, I assure you that bringing your mental awareness to those body parts is absolutely sufficient. So take a moment to get yourself comfortable. You can do it seated. You can do it laying down, however you prefer. Just make yourself comfortable. And when you're at ease, gently close the eyes. Now bring your awareness to the breath. Just notice what parts of the body are engaged in breathing today. Just notice if you're breathing into the belly, if you're breathing into the chest. Notice the air coming in through the nose, the air going out the mouth, whatever parts you're using. And now try to inhale into the belly, into the lower belly, and puff it out. So we're going to inhale, puffing out the belly, and now into the upper belly and up into the chest. And exhale, letting the chest drop, exhaling from the middle belly and the lower belly. And as you exhale, the belly button kind of goes in towards the spine. Inhale into the lower belly, puff it out, the middle belly, the chest, and the upper chest. And exhale from the chest, the middle belly, and the lower belly. Really draw that belly button into the spine. And do that a couple more times. Now, as you continue to breathe, bring your awareness to the toes. Wiggle the toes. And bring your awareness to the bottom of the feet, the soles of the feet, the top of the feet, and the ankles. And if you feel like it, you can make circles with your feet. The feet are the source of your stability when you're standing. They help you to move in the world. They help you to ground yourself. So as you're wiggling the feet, Think about all the ways that they help you in the world. And as you come to stillness again, take a moment to thank the feet for all that they do for you. Now bring the awareness to the legs, starting with the calves, the shins, the knees, the backs of the knees, the thighs, and the upper thighs. And if you'd like, you can wiggle the legs. Just feel how they feel today, knowing that they're the powerhouse of your locomotion. They help you to bend. They help you to spring. They help you to sit and get up again. They help you to be mobile in the world. And if nothing else, they're a good place to put your pants. And as you come to stillness, take a moment to thank your legs for all that they do for you. Now bring the awareness to your buttocks. You can wiggle the buttocks, feel their shape. Notice that they help you to sit whenever you're sitting. And notice also that they provide a nice padding for your pelvis, protecting the pelvis. And as you come to stillness, thank your buttocks for all that they do to help you sit and to protect you. Now bring the awareness to the groin and to the belly. And imagine all of the internal organs in that belly. Your intestines, your stomach, your liver, your spleen, all that's in there. If you want to, you can inhale deep into the belly, puff it out, puff it out, puff it out, hold, and exhale. And as you come to stillness again, thank the belly for all that it does and all the organs that are contained in it. Now bring your awareness to the back, the lower back, the middle back, the upper back, and the shoulders. You might want to give your shoulders a little shrug. You might want to wiggle your back. Think about all that that back does for you. It holds you upright. The spine holds your nerves, discs, everything that holds you upright and connects the pelvis to the head. And as you come to stillness, thank the spine and your back for all that it does to keep you upright in the world. Bring the awareness now to the chest. If you want to, you could place a hand on your heart. In the chest are your heart and lungs that help you to pump blood through the body, to oxygenate the blood. Inhale into the chest and hold. And exhale. Return your breathing to normal. And as you come to stillness again, thank the chest, the heart, the lungs, all the organs contained therein for all that it does to keep you alive. Bring the awareness now to the back of the neck, holding up your head, and to the throat, where is the seat of your voice. You might want to move your head from side to side, get a sense of that neck and that throat. And as you come to stillness,
Thank the neck for holding your head upright and the throat for giving you voice. And now bring your awareness to the head, beginning with the chin and the jaw, the lips and the mouth where you taste all of the food that you ingest, the nose where you smell all the delightful scents of the world, the cheeks, the ears where you hear all the beautiful sounds of music and bird song, the eyes that allow you to see and perceive the world, the forehead and the upper head. You can scrunch around your face if you want, wiggle your nose, your mouth, get a sense of your face, get a sense of your head. And as you come to stillness, take a moment to thank each of the parts of your head for all that they do in allowing you to perceive the world and sense everything around you. And inside the head is the brain, the powerhouse of the body that operates, it's the operating system. Whether it needs an upgrade or not, it allows the body to function, and it allows us to be self-conscious and perceive the world. Whatever you feel about the brain at the moment, take a moment and thank it for all it does for you in the world. And take a moment or two to thank the body, thank the brain for all the gifts that you get from whatever function it gives you. And when you're ready, open your eyes and return to the room. Now, there are gratitude meditations on YouTube. Brother David Steindl-Rast has one, and I've given a script of a couple of gratitude meditations that can be used. You can read them to yourself. You can read them into a tape recorder. You feel free to do the body scan whenever you want. So, there's a few things to say about practicing gratitude. Now, I know that I said my practice was gratitude, joy, oneness, and service, but we're going to focus today on gratitude. And the first thing to say is that a high trait gratitude, that means being born very grateful, really helps. But that's okay if you weren't born grateful. I wasn't. And most of the practitioners and researchers on gratitude admit that they weren't either. It helps, but it doesn't matter because it can be learned through practice and we can increase our state gratitude. So, according to Robert Emmons, there's two parts to gratitude. There's first the recognition of a good thing and the attribution of that good thing. So, recognizing that we have the apple and then recognizing all the people that helped to get the apple onto our table. It's nice to be grateful for things, and there are many things that we have in our lives that benefit us, and we're very lucky to and fortunate to live in the country that we do. But even more impactful is when we're grateful for the people and that are in our lives and the benefit that they bring to us, the love and the care and support that they give us. And sometimes they are the source of the things that come into our lives. So it's nice to be grateful for the apple. It's even better to be grateful for the fruit picker that picked the fruit so that we could eat it. It's easy to come up with a, well, maybe it's not easy, but we can come up with a a long list of things to be grateful for that are superficial. But what is more impactful is to come up with a shorter list and really delve into why it matters, what impact those things had on you, what sacrifice the person who brought that benefit into your life gave so that you could have it. Robert Emmons talks about appreciating the surprises that come in life and treating the surprises as real gifts. And that leads into what Brother David says, which is that all of life should be seen when we practice gratitude as a gift. And it is possible, and in fact, essential to practice gratitude when we're experiencing difficulty. It's where it can be most impactful. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like we should be most grateful when times are good. But I don't know about you, but yes, I'm grateful when everything's going my way, but it's not hard because things are going my way. But where we can get the most impact is to find those things for which we can be grateful, even in our difficult times. And that's where we really feel gratitude the most. It becomes very profound, life-changing, in fact. So, one of the ways to practice gratitude, and I've already mentioned that, is a gratitude journal. I'm sure that most of you have heard of a gratitude journal. Um, for example, you could do 3 things for which you're grateful every day. The research says 3 to 5 things. And the research says that actually doing it 1 to 3 times a week might be better than doing it every day. That's somewhat because doing it every day can become boring and it can become a burden. So doing it less frequently but in greater depth is more impactful. Spend at least 15 to 20 minutes reflecting on the things that you're grateful for and savoring the experience of those things. Try to be specific. So, we might be grateful for apples, but we might better be grateful for Granny Smith apples that came from this orchard that remind you of when you were a child and your grandmother made you an apple pie. Trying to think of what really specifically makes it meaningful for you. It's important to avoid repetition. So today I might be grateful for the sunshine because it grows my flowers. But tomorrow, if I want to be grateful for the sunshine again, I need to find another aspect. Maybe it's I'm grateful for the feeling of the sunshine on my face and the comfort that it gives me. If you get stuck, you can always use prompts. There's an article in your handouts that I wrote on my website of 20 things that can prompt you to find things to be grateful for. And Robert Emmons says it's important, in fact, essential to write it down because writing it down into language translates our thought into language and makes the things we're grateful for more concrete. And it increases our awareness. And by doing that, it deepens the impact of our gratitude practice. Now, I know that writing it down can be a big effort if you have limits to your energy. And so my thought, and I don't know if this would work. I haven't seen any research on it. Maybe I'll do research on it one day, but if the idea is to translate the thought into language, why not just speak it out loud if writing is too much for you today? Another gratitude practice is writing a gratitude letter. And for the gratitude letter, we choose a situation where we haven't really properly thanked somebody for something they've done for us. And as I said, I think it was 6 months in, I started writing gratitude letters. And boy, howdy, did I find so many situations where I was the beneficiary and I was just like so mindless at the time. I didn't realize that somebody had done something for me. And the more I dug into that, the more people I found to thank and the more things I found that I had benefited from. So when you choose to do this, you might come up with a lot of them. But when you do a gratitude letter, think about the person that helped you and how they helped you and what impact that help gave to you. What did it really do for you? Why was it important? Think about their intentions when they set out to help you and appreciate any sacrifice that they made in order to provide you with this benefit. Once you've done all of that sort of reflection and thinking about it, then write it down. And if it's in any way possible, read that letter to the person. Sonia Lubomirsky and her colleagues did research on what types of gratitude interventions were the most beneficial. And by far, it seemed that the gratitude letter was the most impactful. There are other ways to practice a heartfelt thank you in the moment. If you do the same things that you did for the gratitude letter, think about how it helped you, what were their intentions, what they sacrificed, what it really meant, how it made a difference in your life, and immediately express that to the person. You can do gratitude meditation like we did. Brother David has a unique practice of gratitude called Stop, Look, Go. And you're in your handouts, there's a link to his website as well, where you can learn more about this. But Stop, Look, Go is basically stop. Don't be caught up in planning the future. Don't be ruminating in the past. Be present. Get present in this moment. Look. So, with the observing mind, observe what's happening in your life right now, right in this present moment. What is being presented to you? What gifts are arising out of life? And once you notice all the wonderful things, then go, which he means take action. Thank someone, laugh, enjoy it. Be compelled to give back to somebody, notice somebody suffering and help them. So it's a real mindfulness-based approach of being present, observing, and taking action. And there's also the gratitude jar. There's a lot of ways to practice gratitude using a gratitude jar. You could um, get a jar and put all of your spare coins in it. And when it gets filled, give it to charity. Or the one I like is just have a gratitude jar. And when great things happen, write down what happened and why you're grateful for it and put it in the jar. When the jar gets full, you can open it and relive those wonderful moments. My entire first year of gratitude practice, I would say, was a gratitude walk. So the gratitude walk or scavenger hunt is where you go out and you seek out things to be grateful for. You look for things that make you happy. You look for your favorite color. You look for moments of connection. You look for um, surprise benefits that you weren't expecting. And that can be the source of your daily practice of writing your gratitude journal. Of course, there are challenges. It's not, I think gratitude is a simple practice. It's a profound, life-changing practice, but it's not always easy. And it's for the same reasons that anything else isn't easy. It's a habit. And to form a habit, there's this theory out there that it takes 21 days, and that hasn't been proven by any scientific research. In fact, Philip O'Lowry did research on behavioral change and habit formation and found that to form a habit, it took somewhere between 18 to 254 days, and the average was 66 days. For me, it took a very, very long time to build the habit of gratitude. which is why I continued to 365 days and decided to carry on for essentially the rest of my life, the next 27 and a half years and beyond. The more complicated the habit, of course, the longer it's going to take to establish. But to establish a habit, research has shown that repetition is important. So the more you do it, the more you do it, the more habitual it becomes. And consistent context helps. So if you decide that you're going to do your gratitude journal first thing when you wake up in the morning, then it doesn't matter what time you wake up every day. But as long as you do your gratitude journal when you first wake up, that builds the habit, that helps to build the habit, having that context. Or let's say you're going to do it at lunchtime. Again, it doesn't matter what time your lunch is. It can vary day by day, but as long as you do it right after you eat your midday meal, then you help to build that habit. Building a habit is difficult if it's not really fun, if it becomes a burden. So try to make gratitude fun. Try to do it in different ways. Maybe one day you do a gratitude walk, next day you do a meditation. Try and experiment with it. And it's important to know I missed days all the time. And that didn't break my habit. I decided that I was going to make it up. And so if I missed a day, I would do 2 days the next day. Now, if I miss a day, I just say, for these 3 days, these are the things I've been grateful for. I don't necessarily have to do it every single day because I've chosen to do it less than once a week. Less than daily, once to 3 times a week. Another challenge is it takes time and energy. So try to find a way that gratitude takes the least energy, that, well, not necessarily the least energy that's possible, but to fit it within your energy envelope. So again, as I said, if writing it down is too difficult, speak it out loud. It's a challenge to practice gratitude in our culture because we are a culture of always striving for more and better and success. And we're not a culture that really celebrates having enough and celebrates abundance. So it's kind of countercultural to practice gratitude. Gratitude also requires humility, that whole idea of we didn't get here on our own, that many, many people, we stood on the shoulders of many, many people, and many people helped us to get here. There is a phrasing in some of the gratitude literature that says that we should be grateful for the things we receive that we didn't necessarily deserve. And I don't like that language because it can lead to a bit of sense of shame and a shame spiral. So if when practicing gratitude, you start to feel, I didn't set this in motion, I don't deserve this, and it spirals into shame, that's something to nip in the bud with your therapist or when the groups start up again. I know that Dr. Arsenault has a shame and trauma group if you're really finding yourself spiraling into shame for the good things that come into your life. More challenges. Sustaining change is always a challenge, no matter what the change is, and finding the balance between growth and boredom. The way to sustain change, however, is not sexy. It's by continual, consistent practice. And so if you do gratitude journaling for 21 days, it'll be a nice exercise, but it won't probably have lasting impact for your life. It's something that needs to become more habitual and move from, well, there's a continuum for gratitude from a polite thank you that means nothing to a feeling of gratefulness, all the way to a choice to live life gratefully from a perspective of gratitude for all of life. And so to gain the most out of your gratitude practice, you want to be moving towards a long-term practice of gratitude. which of course means you're not going to be doing it every day because that's not sustainable. Something maybe weekly is more sustainable. And so when we talk about gratitude, there can be some backlash because I don't know about you, but I've experienced the experience of people telling me, well, be grateful that you at least are this, or that you don't have this illness. You should be grateful that you can still do X. And this isn't about toxic positivity. It isn't about denying our difficulties. It isn't denying our challenge of having a chronic illness. It isn't denying the things that we grieve and our anger about it. It's actually a practice that sits alongside it. It sits alongside our adversity and helps us to cope. So gratitude, according to Emmons, is where in adversity is where we get the most benefit. So let's talk about gratitude in adversity, because I'm pretty sure that we've all experienced or may currently be experiencing challenges in our life. Brother David is quite right in saying it's not possible to be grateful for everything, but there is always something for which we can be grateful. And that is that experience of finding something despite the challenges in our life. And Robert Emmons wrote an article. He's written quite a bit about gratitude in adversity, and there's several citations in your reading list. There's an article that is in the handouts about practicing gratitude in adversity. And he recommends that, well, number one, anyone who practices gratitude for a long time will probably contemplate their mortality. And it doesn't sound like a fun task, but when we realize that life is very short and we have this one go round, maybe depending on what you believe, there might be something after, but this life is very short, and appreciating that it will end helps us to appreciate the gift of life itself. He recommends that we look back on our bad times and remember them. And think about how you managed to overcome adversity in the past, and recognize that you did. And allow that to give you the confidence that you can, if not overcome your current adversity, learn to cope with it. And so, thirdly, he recommends reframing adversity and looking at it to come up with some lessons that you can take away from it. To look for what positive qualities can be gained from the adversity. What surprised you about yourself? What surprises you in adversity? And is there a way to be thankful for the experience? Can adversity be transformed? Can this adversity be transformed to help others? So for me, I think it might sound weird, but I am grateful for my chronic fatigue syndrome because it allowed me to develop compassion for other people who are struggling with or or struggling in life, and especially those who are managing a chronic illness. It also gave me the experience of the profound power of gratitude. If I hadn't had the illness, I might not have noticed how really profound gratitude can be. And by practicing gratitude, it surprised me. What things surprised me? It surprised me that I became incredibly attractive. People wanted to support me and help me by practicing gratitude. It was just an odd offshoot of being grateful, is that people wanted to be around me and help me. And of course, I think that writing about gratitude practice has given me purpose. It's added meaning to my life. And it's a way that I can transform my chronic illness to help others who might be trying to manage their chronic illness as well. Others have studied gratitude in adversity, and they found that it is possible to take stock of the good, even in difficult times. Gratitude increases well-being, even when we're in a health crisis. It's kind of like Davis and Davis and their colleagues did a study on relationships and found that small expressions of gratitude acted like a booster shot that could be stored for those moments of adversity. Gratitude helps to foster meaning and helps people to develop resilience. And Cashton did a study on Vietnam War veterans that found that gratitude was psychologically protective. Those who practiced gratitude were less likely to experience the post-traumatic stress symptoms, and they were more likely to be able to cope. Not only that, they found that actually gratitude created hedonic well-being. So that's the experience of happiness and joy, connection. And also it created, I can't say the word, eudaimonic meaning, eudaimonic well-being, which is meaning and purpose and growth. So both the happiness and the growth results from gratitude, even in adversity, like post-trauma. Gratitude helps to reframe and cope with hardship, and it is one of the main results of post-traumatic growth. Tedeschi and Calhoun did a study of post-traumatic growth and found that an appreciation for life itself was one of the 5 outcomes of post-traumatic growth. So not only did gratitude help to cope with the trauma, but an appreciation of life was the result of growing from that trauma. There was a study by Algo and Stanton of women who had terminal cancer, and they found that gratitude was a buffer and a way to achieve greater social relationships and to encourage emotional support. It also provided an emotional support for those who were experiencing the illness. So distress and gratitude, as I said, can sit alongside one another. And as Emmons says, it's not about denying the distress. It's not about denying the illness. It's not about denying adversity. It's about defying it. Emmons says the challenge is to search deliberately for blessings, mercies, and moments of grace that are present even in the darkest days. So there's a few caveats, I would say. Gratitude can be misused in abusive relationships, so be careful of when you practice gratitude and to whom. Being public about gratitude has its benefits and its costs. So for me, it created accountability. But the cost of being public is, can you be as profound in your gratefulness when you're writing something publicly? And can you be as open? In fact, Lubomirsky found that being grateful on social media was the least impactful way to be grateful and practice gratitude. So, hey, that's what I did, but it's not the most impactful. In fact, private expressions of gratitude and private gratitude journals were more impactful. And again, I would say we can't selectively thaw our emotions. So there were great emotions, love, awe, increased self-worth, joy. oneness. And there were also, for me, emotions of anger and sorrow. And those came up alongside the good emotion, the more pleasant emotions. So just be aware that if you are or have been numb in order to cope with chronic illness, that if you choose to practice gratitude, it may open the heart, and there are other things that may arise that need to be processed as well. A big caveat is that this isn't transactional. I don't have any evidence, but I really suspect that if we sit there and we do gratitude journaling with the intention that we're going to get better, it's not going to work. I don't think that's going to help. I think that gratitude is life-changing because of the practice of gratitude itself. So looking for a result is not the way forward. Practicing gratitude for gratitude's sake is life transforming. And really, results can vary. As I said, different things will come up for different people. And, some people in those studies experienced all of those physical benefits, but some people did not. So every individual is different. And my final caveat is start small. And I give a screenshot of day 5 where I'm grateful for comedy, for the chance to go to a pub, and for the sunshine on my face. So if you want to look any further at my journey, you can find it at 10,000daysofgratitude.com. I'm also on all the social media, not Twitter or whatever it's called now, X. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads as 10,000 Days of Gratitude, and my email is there, 10,000daysofgratitude@gmail.com. So I really thank you for your open-hearted attention, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you also for being patient while I was struggling to get started. I have never shared my screen on a webinar before, so I thank you very much. And we'll go to questions. Okay, let's see. So somebody asked, what is the hospital program in London, Ontario? Apologies, it was London, England. And I was at the Sutton Hospital Center for ME. I'm just going to read the next one. Yeah, so somebody mentioned that service can be depleting. Um, the evidence shows that it's actually the opposite. That service empowers people and it energizes people the same as gratitude. And it's, an individual thing to manage your own energy envelope. So as I said, doing a meditation can be an act of service. Just leaving a positive comment on someone's Facebook page can be an act of service. Smiling at a baby, they're a pretty safe stranger, that can be another act of service. So it's important when you are doing service that you remember that you have an energy envelope that needs attention and you need to stay within it. I also sometimes practice service by practicing self-compassion and self-care. So there's, when we're serving and giving back, we can give back by giving to ourselves because, for instance, if I don't take care of myself, if I hadn't taken care of myself last night, I would be too tired today to do this webinar. So self-care is another act of service. Somebody has been doing gratitude practice for almost 10 years. Congratulations, well done to you. And may it continue for the rest of your life. I hope that it's been as transformative for you as it has been for me. Someone calls gratitude vitamin G, and I love that. And somebody appreciates the idea of doing it first thing in the morning. Now, I do it first thing in the morning because, frankly, I'm too tired at night. But some people may find that reflection happens best at the end of the day. So, it all depends on you and what works best for you. Um, I think that's all the questions we have, but we have a little bit more time. Oops, somebody came up with acts of service that come from a genuine place are restorative for them. Acts of service that come from a place of guilt or obligation are draining. It's very important to distinguish. Well said. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why, for me, I needed to add the oneness to my practice because it was difficult to find ways to be of service that were authentic. And it was when I felt connected to others that I felt really motivated uh, to help them via the experience of empathy for them or compassion. Someone says that the meditation was the first time that they've been thankful for their body in years. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you experienced that because no matter what we don't have, we still have all of the benefits that our body brings to us right now. Um, what might service look like when you struggle even getting out of the house? Okay, that's a good question. So I don't know if you know the metta meditation where you practice, may I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I be loved. And then you send it out to someone that um, you have good relationship with, someone that you have a neutral relationship with, and if you have the energy to do so, someone that you have a challenging relationship with. Just wishing someone well is an act of service. Okay, we're getting lots of questions coming in. Thank you. Somebody says that they've had a difficult relationship with gratitude because it's been weaponized. That's absolutely. That's that whole toxic positivity component and being told you should be grateful. And it's really important to practice gratitude from observing your own life and the gifts that come. And that's why, it can be weaponized. Maybe that's why private practice is more impactful than a public practice. So, getting back on the wagon when you've had a flare. So, gratitude journaling. You mentioned that there's days, continuous days, where you can't write your gratitude journal, and then you come out and you've lost momentum. Just get back on the bandwagon. Just open your journal and write. You don't have to do it every day. In fact, it's less impactful if you do it every day. So don't beat yourself up. Show yourself self-compassion and think, you know, if you've been in a flare for 5 days, you've got 5 days of moments where you can find things to be grateful for rather than having to come up with it every single day. And if you've been in a flare, you might have been in bed. So sometimes it's as simple as the cool side of the pillow or a bowl of soup and the memory that that bowl of soup brings from your childhood the nutrition it gives, maybe, the glass of water that's by your bed that keeps you from being dehydrated. Simple, small things to be grateful for. Any other tips for feeling connected to others? So one of the simplest ways to feel connected to others is to notice when you are feeling connected. So if you're on the bus and you're looking at a baby and they're smiling, notice that that's a moment of connection. So it's practicing mindfulness to notice those moments. If interpersonal connection is difficult, we can feel connected by looking at art. We can feel connected by listening to storytelling. So listening to a book, an audiobook, listening to podcasts. We can feel connected by sitting outside and listening to the birds. I hope that answered the question. How long did it take for sleep to no longer be a problem? Well, it was noticeably, my symptoms were noticeably diminished within 3 months. And within 6 months, they were almost gone, except if I had a flare, if I pushed myself too hard, or I had jet lag. And within a year, I found that that my symptoms were improved. Now, that being said, I'm also a menopausal woman, so I'm not sure that sleep will ever not be a problem for me, but I'm not sure that I can attribute it to chronic fatigue. There are lots of in your notes, and if you haven't received them, please ask Bruno for them. There are lots of studies that show how long the gratitude intervention took for improvements in sleep to take effect. Um, uh, Thank you. Someone shares that they first heard of gratitude practice in their church at Thanksgiving, and I like this idea. The pastor had us write down three things for which we're grateful. One had to be something that was hard to be grateful for. So that's a good way to practice to get in the mood of being grateful in adversity. Someone says that being a volunteer saved them when they could no longer work. They met wonderful people and it gave them a support group. I would also say it probably gave you a sense of purpose and meaning that you might have derived in the past from work, but now you got from helping others. I don't know, but if it were me, I would have experienced that. Whenever I volunteer, I do get a sense of purpose and meaning from it. I apologize. Apparently, my microphone hit my shirt, and that was a little uncomfortable for somebody. I do apologize.
Okay, we're out of time.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for showing up today and having an open heart. And